Just to give people an idea of where Tahiti is, we're up here. This is the equator. This is New Zealand and Australia down here, and Hawaii is up here. So it's below the equator down in this corner of the Pacific in French Polynesia.
And there are 5 archipelagos in French Polynesia, and it is still a French overseas territory with a fair amount of local autonomy, but they are still considered some way part of France and are still entitled to French citizenship in terms of being EU members, even though they don't have the franc and they're not part of the EU business deal. They have, as I say, 5 archipelagos, and most of the time, tourists like us are in what's called the Society Islands, which are the ones that Wes is showing now.
Okay.
We started in Tahiti, which is the one underneath that big sign, French Polynesia. Then we went a little further west to Maria, and then we went way west to the top corner of your screen up to Bora Bora. I might add, these islands, like many areas of indigenous people, suffered a huge setback in their lives. They settled there probably about 300 AD, and around the 1800s, had a big trident prong from the west. The first thing being bringing in the guns, then came the disease and the alcohol, and finally the Christian missionaries who banned all their what they considered lewd dancing and shoved them all in Mother Hubbards. So they had a three-pronged attack from the folks who came out. The French took over in the 1800s, and as I say, gradually have given more and more autonomy, but they still, to some extent, are a French protectorate.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
This is at our first B&B that we were in near Papiat, just a little south of in Papiat. And this is one of our typical breakfasts.
And you can just see through the gate on the upper left is the ocean. We had no swimming beach here, but we had a strip of land there, which gave us the most magnificent sunsets for happy hour every night, overlooking Maria. This is one of the original boats, a reconstruction of an original twin-hulled catamaran, which was the type of boat the Polynesians sailed all around the Pacific in.
And this is, we visited kind of a typical market in Papiete. Lots of goods for sale, food, very colorful.
One of the typical churches that you find all around the island. And you could find in places Protestant and Catholic churches on the opposite side of the street to each other. And this is inside the church and the Polynesian style Madonna and Child that they had inside it.
And this is one of the places we visited. I think this is the grottos de
Yes.
Mera.
Yeah. After our first day exploring Papiete and getting settled in, the next day we took a tour around one of the two parts of Tahiti. There's Tahiti Nui, which is the big bit, and then joined by a narrow strip of land, there's Tahiti Iti, and we did separate tours of them. And this is our tour around the big one, coming to these grottos.
This one might be the water gardens. I might have got those
yes.
mixed.
Nice.
Just some of the beautiful flowers.
This is the water gardens.
Yeah.
And there were some hiking trails above here where we hiked up, as I say, and walked, what, about an hour and a half up there, Wes?
Yeah, it was very nice. Beautiful reflection shot here. And this is us up on the hiking trail looking down on the bay below. And this is us in just outside our B&B enjoying one of the typical sunsets we would see. And that's looking at Moria.
Mm-hmm. That actually is an Airbnb, not a B&B. We rented our part of the house. Our landlords were on the back of it.
And we would hear the surf all night long, kind of coming in and hitting the rocks along the shoreline. It was very nice.
And the rocks were there, definitely.
Well, here's the
And
grotto.
this is the Grotto de Mera.
Mm-hmm.
And this is one of the mares. Is that how you say it?
Marai, which
Marai.
are the old temples, and this is one of the old statues that they had around some of the old temples. You can just see in the back left some sort of black rock. There's sort of a black platform there, which was the base of the old temple. There it is.
Yeah, and just so nobody's confused, that wasn't me in the middle. I'm not that tall.
And this is about all that's left of the old sacred sites. We went for another hike up the valley behind this Marai.
You
Little
can
bit
see
of a
how
temple.
kind of jungly it is. Oops. And yeah, Norm and I went to the end of the hike, but they wouldn't let you get to the waterfall. They had private property up there and had it blocked off. So this is the
Many
beach.
afternoons after exploring in the mornings, we'd take ourselves down to some beach for snorkeling. And this was one of the nearest ones to where we were staying. It was about, what, 10 minutes drive away?
Mm-hmm. And this is one of the fish we saw under the water.
Nice. Oh,
The
pretty.
little blue guys.
Yeah.
I wish I knew more about fish, but
Yeah. The underwater fish are all courtesy of Wes's camera, because mine decided to leak and I lost all my photos. So we're particularly dependent on Wes's pics for the fish.
and we visited
the yeah.
Tahiti Museum. These are called tikis, I believe, which are kind of their little idols of gods, or they worshipped. Oh, and this is the day we went to Tahiti Iti, I think, right?
Yeah, this is the
Iti.
little one we went to.
Iti.
Yeah.
And we drove down along a little peninsula there, and then up into the hills to. They have what they call belvedere, which are lookout points, I guess in French. And this is Belvedere de Traraveo, or we were driving up to it. This is just a look at the landscape. They were actually had, I think, some cows grazing here.
Yeah.
They do have some agriculture. And then we went on a hike from the Belvedere through. They had some very nice pathways all mowed for people to walk on. And we went to Tiahupu Wave to have a look at the big waves down there. And this is just a little river coming into there. And then that night we went off to, what are these, food market? Or
Yeah, we went into Papeete, and in Tahiti, a lot of the locals don't eat in restaurants; they eat at food trucks. They call them roulades, and they're very popular with the local people because the restaurants for the local people are very expensive, mostly attached to big hotels and not in their budget. So there are a number of these roulettes We went to one in downtown Papeete. We also stopped one night at one very near us that was serving crepes. We'd gone looking for ice cream at our local store, didn't find any, and found this roulette serving crepes instead. I might add, looking at, oh, can you go back one, Wes? Coming down, third line down, Poisson Cru, Olay, and Poisson Cru à la Cinnamon. Poisson Cru is the closest they come to a national dish, which is basically raw fish, soaked in coconut, milk, lemon, and then trimmings of other things added to it. But I think, Norm, you and I were the only ones that tried it, right?
Yeah, it wasn't that good.
No, but it is something that's on every menu.
It's the day we got Norm to drive the horrible road up to another Belvedere restaurant.
It was only a horrible road because it was single wide, extremely windy, and like extremely with switchbacks nonstop. And we prayed the whole way up that we would not meet a vehicle because we had no idea where we'd go in order to avoid or get by the vehicle that we met.
We were
fitting.
we were on the Belvedere, up at the Belvedere, and these are those some of the vegetation we see.
Yeah, we knew the name of that plant, but I can't remember what it was now. Helen knew it.
Gibbon, it's an import from Africa. It's some kind of tree from Gabon or something like that.
Yep.
Oh. And I think this was our final sunset in Tahiti, maybe.
Yes.
Yeah, and then we flew over to Moria. Is Helen there?
I don't think so.
Oops. Uh-oh.
Well, I got kicked off and I just got back on.
Yeah,
Helen is muted.
oh, okay. Helen, can you
Myself. Okay,
yeah.
I'm unmuted now.
Sorry, I think the free version of Zoom is cut back on the amount of time I have, but it did say I had like 15 minutes and then suddenly it just died. So I don't know what was going on.
Anyway,
Anyways,
that's the end of Tahiti, and we're off to Maria now.
yeah. How many participants do we have here? Oh, we still got our 20, so that's good.
That is now
Okay.
the island of Maria, and you can see the reef encircling the island and the beautiful colored lagoons it encloses. I might add, we had an interesting landing on Maria. We touched down, but it was so windy he couldn't make it. He took off again, circled round again, and we were wondering if we were going to land, but he made it the second time.
It's very interesting to be on a flight that at the last second is before you touch it, you hear the engines kick in and you start climbing again.
Mm. Some interesting rock in the center of the island of Maria is pretty well all mountain, and some of them had some interesting shapes. These islands, of course, were originally volcanoes that sprung up out of the ocean. This is the beach near where we were staying. We had a rental in a condominium block that is to the right of your screen, but our particular unit was not on the beach, but the condominium complex was on the beach, and this is the beach we walked down to. It wasn't actually the best of swimming beaches because it was a bit shallow. We nearly always went a bit further afield for our snorkeling expeditions.
To see the stingrays and the blacktip sharks. And that
that is the unit that we rented. It's not a fare, which F-A-R-E, which is the traditional thatch roofed Tahitian house, but it's in the shape of it, the roof. You'll see a typical fare later on in the show because we stayed in one on the third island.
having our breakfast. Just
I
showing
might
some,
add, given this is a French area, you always start the day with fresh bread. They believe in getting your baguette for breakfast. We had about a 5 minute walk each way for our baguettes on the first island of Tahiti. We had about 15 minutes each way here, and we were a bit challenged on the last island because there really wasn't anywhere we could walk to get a fresh baguette each morning.
but that's how we brought our baguette home. And we bought it at the little shop. It was only about a 10-minute walk from where we were staying, and we went every morning to get a fresh baguette.
Before breakfast.
Yeah.
And
And
there
there
was
is your
our typical breakfast, Skippy peanut butter and fruit.
lots of fruit, yogurt, fresh baguettes.
I think this was Three Pines.
Yeah, this was a hike. We went up into the interior somewhat and set off for, it was a hike called Three Pines, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah,
And
Three
this is one
Pines
of the,
or called the Trois Pinus.
as you can see, it has spreading twines and roots.
Yeah, I think this was a banyan tree that we were
Yeah.
photographing by. The trail, actually one of the better trails, well maintained in this area. It was pretty hard to find really good hiking trails, but they had two from the Belvedere we went up to. And both were very well maintained.
And this is
Thus,
us at the Three Pines. And if you wonder what we're looking at, and that line that is across the top left-hand corner, there was actually a swing there. That's what Wes is looking at. Somebody's swinging on it.
just some of the beautiful scenery down to the bays down below. We went to visit it was called Lycée. It was an agricultural school, basically, where they were teaching people about growing different crops.
Interesting, but nothing that we had never seen before.
Yeah.
Say
Needless to say,
pineapple,
growing pineapples. They're
which
rather
were very,
smaller pineapples than we're used to seeing around here.
and they were very expensive when you went to buy
Yeah.
them in the store compared to like Costco. You can get them for like $5, but there they were like $15.
Mm. So it wasn't on our breakfast plate very often. Beautiful flowers, of course, everywhere.
I think we went and did some more snorkeling in the afternoon.
And that looks like a pufferfish.
I think it is. And
And a parrotfish.
parrotfish. Oh, and then we
That's a
went.
fish out of water.
This was our day at the infamous Tropical Garden Center. So this is all vanilla.
This is
the-
yeah, these are vanilla plants, and this is the day. This is the moment before torture.
So Wes decided that there was a little hike to a waterfall, and Helen quite sensibly decided that it was a bit rough. The trail was not very well maintained. We basically found an old wooden sign that was kind of leaning that said this was the way to the waterfall. Anyways, Norm and I went there, but in going there, we felt something when we were crawling under the bushes that kind of landed on us that made us a little bit itchy. Oops. So Norm can tell the rest of that story.
Well, it is the worst experience I've had. I felt like my arms were on fire and on my neck, and it was absolutely like, and it was, I don't even know how to describe it. Like, it was painful, itchy and painful. And I had some kind of reaction to whatever it was, and it took about 3 days before. I couldn't even, like, I got back to the car and we were going to continue our journey. And I finally said, I cannot do this. I've got to, we got some salve to put on from a medical place, and I was having some kind of allergic reaction to whatever it was. It was like being thousands of bites all over you.
Yeah.
It
And
was
I had
horrible.
the
It was the
same,
worst I've ever been.
I was itchy, but I wasn't nearly as itchy as Norm. So we went to the pharmacy, took him, then we drove back to our place, and he had a shower. And anyways, I felt well after a shower, and that I felt well enough to continue the day. So Helen and I had a beautiful drive around the island while Norm kind of tried to recover.
Well, I was in misery.
Mm.
Right.
We stopped at the cultural centre that they have on Maria, and I'm sure you're all familiar with the fact that Paul Gauguin from France settled in Tahiti and painted some of his most famous paintings there. These are not original Paul Gauguins, but a lot of the local artists paint in his style. And in the cultural centre there, we could see a lot of these paintings in that style. I might add, this cultural centre is where we went, booked tickets to go back for one of their evening performances.
That was a young couple we saw there renewing their vows at the Tiki Village. We continued on around the island, and this is one of the churches we saw along the way. Oh, and then we kind of almost completed our circuit when we came to the Sofitel Hotel, I think, Helen, and we could see down to it. Later, we were going to go to a beach nearby and snorkel all the way underneath these little units. Tahiti's very famous for having these kind of hotels on piers with little houses where people can go out and stay, and then they can actually just walk out of their little hotel room down to the water and go snorkeling. They are kind of expensive to stay in, though, so we didn't stay in any of them.
They're called over-the-water bungalows, very popular with honeymooners. And this particular hotel, the Sofitel, is famous for the amount of fish that are swimming around underneath their bungalows. So you can't access it from that bit of beach you can see, which is their private beach. We had to go into the water, what will be on the left side of your screen, and swim across and then swim among them. And we did get good fish sightings there. This is in our condominium. One of the locals fishing up the tree there for mangoes. Occasionally the mangoes would drop off, and we did get a couple of them, but the drop off hoard was not much for reaping because this local guy was pinching them first.
And I think this was another snorkel and another fish. Some beautiful fish and some coral. A needle.
A trumpet fish, yes.
Oh, trumpet fish.
Yeah.
And our first stingray that we saw. We were to see many more stingrays, but this was the first one. The name of this one. Oh, and this was the day we decided we were going to go take our kayaks that they provided with our accommodation and go out to a place where they were feeding stingrays and blacktip sharks to attract them so that tourists like us could go over and take pictures.
Except other people had to pay for a tour to do it. We just paddled our little kayaks out.
And we also got out of the kayaks. You'll notice that we had to find a rock that we could stand on it to get back into the kayaks because it was a little awkward to get into them when you get out after in the water.
These are some of the blacktip sharks. They're quite harmless to people anyways, so we were swimming amongst them a lot of the time. other stingray. And this is a norm, I think, under the ocean,
Yes.
showing his ability to dive. And Helen on her kayak with our accommodation was just in behind where she is.
The we went from watching where the sharks and stingrays were over to an area between two little motus, two little islands that were near us that they'd told us was a very good area for snorkeling, but we didn't think that highly of it. It was okay, but it wasn't anything special, was it?
No. It was nice, but it
It was
wasn't.
nice, yes.
Yeah. I know Norm and I worked hard on our paddling because I was at the back of the kayak and not paddling correctly, apparently. Took us a while to get over there, but we managed. I think that might be the Paul Gauguin. I'm not
Yeah, the
sure.
one on the right is the Paul Gauguin is a small cruise ship that spends its life doing 7-day tours around the islands. It goes out of Papeete. It's the only one that's a local one going out of Papeete, as opposed to possibly a big cruise ship coming past. Although we didn't actually see any big cruise ships while we were there, Tahiti is a little bit off the beaten track. If people are taking cruise ships from New Zealand or Australia, they're more likely to go by somewhere like Fiji, which is a more direct line, and Hawaii than Tahiti, which is a little further over to the east.
And our sunsets weren't quite as spectacular off the little pier near our place as they were in Papeete on the main island, but still nice. And this was at the Tiki Village, the show.
And this was the first of a couple of Tahitian shows we saw, and this was a professional show. We'll talk more about the other one when we get to Bora Bora, which will probably be on the next slideshow. But again, they are into the fast hip movements. The Tahitian one is a little faster than the Hawaiian, and it's fully revived. As I mentioned, it was killed off in the 1800s by the missionaries, but in the 1950s, there was a major cultural revival in Tahiti, and the Tahitian dance, music, tattooing all came back to thrive, and now they're thriving extremely well, holding local competitions, never mind this professional troupe. The men have to bang their knees together very, very fast. So they're in that position doing knee bangs together fast. If you want to do some leg exercise, that would be a good way to do it.
Oh, fire. Breathing fire seemed to be a big part of their dances as well.
And something we didn't see when we later saw amateur shows. It seems only the professionals do the fire bit.
And I think this was at the top of Magic Mountain, which was that was another hike. This hike you actually had to pay to go on.
You had to pay in order to get on the trail.
Right.
You weren't guided.
Didn't cost very much though. It was a fairly
No.
Yeah.
bit of a token fee.
But
This
it
is
had
the
a
view.
nice view. Yeah, it had a nice view down into the bay below.
Yeah.
And of the mountains. And then I think this is a pilot fish. And we did another snorkel. And I think this is a look at the day that Norm and I did the 3 Coconut Hike trail. Helen decided this one she wasn't really interested in doing, and we got somewhere I think around here.
A little bit further.
Yeah,
Further up.
I think
Further up.
well maybe. Not
Think
up
about-
to this big one, Norm. We didn't go that
No,
high.
no, we just got to the bottom of it there where you are now.
I think we were like on here and then we walked along here a little ways and turned around. But anyways, it doesn't really. And this is me up at the top of the Three Coconut hike, and the Three Pines hike kind of comes in somewhere over here.
Yeah, that was our first one.
Yeah.
While
And
they
you
were
notice
doing
that
that
there-
hike, I launched one of the kayaks again and went paddling again.
I
Yeah.
think from this one we could see the water on the left, and we turned around, we could see water, and so we were high enough on the
Yeah,
island to see both sides.
yeah, we were.
And this was me back down at the beach area. As I mentioned, I took our kayak out again and explored the area. And this was a whole group of local people in the water just enjoying the beach.
And when you went to, I think, take it out, didn't you get like 3 guys that wanted to help you all take your kayak out of the water?
Oh, yes, yes, I was getting lots of volunteer help to get my kayak out of the water and back up to the bungalow. You had a sort of pram thing you wheeled the kayak on.
Helen, I told you
it's a
not to
good-
wear that bikini.
Whereas are we nearing the end of time? Because I think we're arriving at Bora Bora, and this might be a good place to break to start here next time.
Right.